Good afternoon. Welcome to Thinking is Contagious. Watching some commercials today on CNBC and Fox and all the business networks, and the theme seems to be a lot of commercials promoting entities, enterprises, initiatives, um, and it's all and aimed at minorities and to help fund, help educate, help grow, and specifically aimed at minorities, black businesses, Hispanic businesses, Asian Americans. And I think it's ironic, don't you, that all these commercials talk about how that these initiatives are aimed at inclusion, bringing the minorities into the mainstream and inclusion. Isn't it funny, or isn't it ironic that by these very commercials, by these very initiatives, by these very pursuits of these various avenues of facilitating either capital or enterprise or whatever it may be, isn't it ironic that they're actually creating more segregation? Because, see, they're just carving these niches specifically for the minorities. And that is the problem, and that is the fallacy, and that is the misstep in all of this. And that is why there is no progress ever, or there's very little progress in these initiatives, because of the fact that you're carving out. You are not mainstreaming. You are not going into society and wanting to compete against society. You're not going out in pursuit of the capital that's available to all society. No, you want a special tier of a different standard in order to facilitate these opportunities, quote unquote, for minorities. And that is where you get the problem. And that is why the only time that you really had a lot of significant progress in a more fair distribution of capital and wealth in this country was during the Trump administration, when you had significant wage earning growth among minorities, where you had very significant employment growth among minorities. You had very significant wealth accumulation, increased home ownership among minorities. And that was all predicated on a capitalist free enterprise system with less government, less taxation, and more incentives to work. All this stuff about build back America, build better, now this initiative that Biden is undertaking about supply side and making sure it stays on the United States. Well, that was all Trump's agenda. That's all Trump's position. And he reversed it from the Obama position. Because when there was the most flight of corporations and of production and of supply chain away from the United States, it was the 12 years between the last Bush administration and the two Obama-Biden administrations. That's when everyone left. That's when the large majority of corporations left. And it was Trump that brought them back, started bringing them back, and now Biden, he actually campaigned against it, against Trump and Trump's positions, and now he's embracing them because he's a liar, he's a hypocrite, and he's a Democrat. That's why he's doing these things. But, that's the MO of the left, of the Democrats. Lie, tell a big lie, repeat it over and over, make it the basis of your theses, and then enough people believe that what you're saying is the truth, or that you've reinvented the wheel properly, then they'll support you. And the way to assure support is to send them checks and send them money and tell them, jump on the soapbox and tell them how you're for minorities and you're for giving people money and you're for free this or free that, when you know that none of that is true. I mean, where's the paying off the college loans, college tuitions? What happened to that? Sort of went by the wayside, right? After you got the vote, Biden, Harris, after you got the vote, that went away, didn't it, real quickly? So you see what's happening. You see the continued emphasis on segregating America by race, gender, creed, sexual orientation, whatever you want. The continued segregation, the continued identifying of these separate groups, and the continued emphasis on creating some kind of structure to support specific groups only actually limits them, actually minimizes them, actually takes them to compete or not compete actually, but takes them to a tier, a lower tier. And it is truly, when you consider it, a racist theme. A racist theme. I'll tell you a perfect example with this voting law BS that requiring ID, that's racist. What is racist is assuming that minorities, or in this case specifically African Americans, because Biden said it was akin to Jim Crowism, that African Americans don't have ID. What are you really saying? You're saying that these people, that the African American community somehow doesn't have IDs, somehow lives this lower tier level of existence. You're talking down to them. What are you doing? What are you doing by saying this? If you go to most African Americans, they're going to tell you, "What? We have ID. We need ID for everything we do. Open a checking account, get a job, get on an airplane, whatever. Everybody has ID." But it's a good narrative to say, we're going to protect you because we're going to make sure that everyone's allowed to vote. No, the objective here is not that everyone's allowed to vote. The objective here is that those people who are entitled to vote are allowed to vote. That means that we don't get dead people voting. That means we don't get people voting out of their district. We don't get people voting from out of state. We don't get people voting that have felony convictions. We don't get people voting that are not citizens. That's what that means. And that's why we have IDs. So this continues to be play on the vulnerabilities of minorities, make them think that you're helping them, send them some crumbs from the feeding trough, and keep them voting. Keep them voting for you, and fill the voter roll with as many people as possible who are dependent on those crumbs. Make sure that there's as many people depending on those crumbs as possible, and that there is just sufficient amount of people filling the trough with their taxes. Basically, the top 10% pays 70+% of the content of the feeding trough. And then say the lie that the top doesn't pay enough. And that'll get you that 60, 70% of the population that counts on the crumbs from the feeding trough to vote for you. That's as simple as I can make it. And if you believe that that's a good system, then keep voting for fools. Keep voting for Democrats. But if you know that that's not what made America great, if you know that's not what allowed you to own your home, drive the car you want, live in the house you want, have the job you want, get the education you want, educate your children, if that's not the system, if the system you want is the one that afforded you all those good things, then you can't vote Democrat anymore. And to all these people who have come to this country in pursuit of better, of opportunity, don't let the the lies of the left here influence you. You got here for the right reason. Your aim is the right country. This is a country of opportunity. This is a country which sees no race. It sees no color. It sees no gender. It sees none of that. And that's obvious. Like we've always said, we've been saying on this program forever. People risk their lives to come here for a shot at opportunity. Who complains about no opportunity? The ones that are here who have not progressed because they've drank the Kool-Aid of the left. And if you continue drinking the Kool-Aid of the left, you're going to continue saying, oh, woe is me, oh, woe is me, while all the people who have come to this country and have made great strides and progress and have mainstreamed and have progressed and have made themselves independent and continue to prosper, those people don't look for the excuse. They just know what they're here for, and they're hell-bent on achieving. Not excuses, not crutches, not crumbs from the feeding trough. They want to get their own feeding trough. And that's where we all have to analyze our situation and discuss and see how we get there. But I know one thing, it is not waiting for some liberal or conservative or a politician. It's not waiting for a politician to send you a check. These guys are leeches, polyticks, many ticks, blood-sucking organisms. These people are bloodsuckers. They have made themselves wealthy. Many of them 10 billionaires, 100 billionaires, millionaires, 10 millionaires, 100 millionaire wealthy at the stake of the taxpayer. 30, 40 years in quote-unquote public service. Just think, public service to the public, yet you come out 10, 50, 100, 200 times richer than the average American. And then they talk about CEOs being overpaid. Who's more overpaid than the politicians in this country? Oh, we only make $170,000 as a senator. No, you don't make that. Your influence peddling and your connections and your contacts and your insiders' trading abilities far exceed the pittance that you make in salary. And that's not why you spend 8 years and millions of dollars to get elected. 8 years of education, sometimes 12 years, lawyers, and then millions of dollars of campaign costs to get elected to a $170,000 a year job. Think about it. Who would do that? Who would do that? No one. But why? Because they realize that the government dole is the key, is the easy way in this country right now to riches, without having earned them, without having to compete for them. That's the key, not having to compete. The politicians put themselves in a position where they don't have to compete. They know that people will come to them because of the power that they gained through the election, through being an elected official. And they know that they can wield whatever axe or big stick that they want and get whatever they want and not have to compete. These are failed business leaders. These are failed lawyers. These are failed professionals that know they cannot reach the heights that they aspire, and because it's not in them, it's not inherent in them. So they say the only way we can do this is through the government, through the power that's vested in us by being an elected official and being able to sell that power. And that's what's happening, selling of that power, directly or indirectly. And that's why you're seeing what you're seeing. 25, 30-year-old kids come out with PhDs or law degrees or medical degrees out of high scale institutions, Ivy League schools, academic superior schools. And what do? They go directly into politics. Why? They certainly don't have anything to offer American society as far as experiences of making a living, paying for the kids' education, planning for retirement. No, they don't have any of that. They can't advise you on that. But what they do know is that the feeding trough is overflowing and that they want their piece of that action of the feeding trough. So, what short of a revolution, how do we fix this? We fix this by making sure that the people we elect to office don't really need to feed off the feeding trough, that really do have experience, world experience, and know what they're doing. That eliminates people like Kamala Harris. That eliminates people like Barack Obama, who got elected. That really eliminated people like George Bush, the son. Okay, that eliminated people like Bill Clinton. If you really think about it, the biggest debacle that we've had at the White House as far as presidents have all been people that don't have the background or the qualifications to lead this country. Donald Trump was not a politician, but Donald Trump was a businessman. Like him or not like him, call him what you want to call him as far as his business acumen, he is a billionaire, self-made billionaire. Yeah, his father had money. He leveraged tens of millions into billions. And he knows how to squeeze the rock. He knows how to squeeze blood out of the rock. He knows how to leverage and negotiate. And that's what was successful. That's why America's economy boomed under Donald Trump. And that's why today we're seeing under the puppet, Joe Biden, an economy that is in peril as far as the way it's being manipulated. It's a strong economy. Our economy is very strong underneath. But Biden and his left-leaning liberal agenda are doing their very best to cut the legs out from under the economy. Have you seen your oil, gas prices? And now the winter's coming, heating oil. Here in Florida, it doesn't matter. Up northeast, you're going to get hit. You're going to get hit really hard. And why? Because Joe Biden and the green agenda decided that it was not a good idea for America to be oil independent. And they waged all-out war on that independence. And they're trying to pump money into the green agenda, into electric vehicles, into other alternative energies. That's all great. Let the market decide who wins there, not you, not the politicians, by who they know and their cronyism. Remember Solana? Solerna, I think it was called, the company that made the solar film that Obama lent $700 million to, and they went bankrupt. Solerna, I think it was. That's an example of a clueless individual like Obama and his administration, who Biden was part of, knowing absolutely nothing about business, who's not vetting, just saying we got to get this money, this what was the equivalent back then of PPE money, to the hands of all these people, and they threw American taxpayer dollars away, much like Biden threw taxpayer dollars away in Afghanistan, in leaving Afghanistan, and much the way he's throwing away dollars right now at bolstering and bumping up entities that can't compete in their green energy, alternative energy fields, but are being subsidized by government contracts because of who they know. Because of who they know. And because of payback. And because of having to justify the acceptance of campaign contributions. And those have to be paid back. And they're being paid back in favors with funding. In the health and medical industry as well. The corruption that's taking place there, the buildings. Look how many clinics are opened up just in Miami alone. People who 5 years ago knew nothing about the medical business. How many people own clinics now that have absolutely no medical background? Why do you think that is? Just like Why do you think it is that so many people in this country today are all of a sudden involved in alternative energies that have no background in energy? Because they know that is the pipeline. Like the unions, when the unions decided that, hey, you know what, we bankrupt every industry we get into. We've bankrupted all of them. Let's do something where let's back an industry that can't be bankrupted. So guess what the unions decided to unionize government. The school board union, the teachers unions, all the federal government, the federal workers unions, all those things, the unions that are involved, that's where they know that they don't have to worry about their dues or their wages or their income, because it's an endless pipeline. Because when they start running out, instead of going bankrupt, like airlines went bankrupt, that they bankrupt, instead of going bankrupt, they just say raise taxes. And that's what the unions did. They said, let's get out of the private sector business and let's go into the public sector business. And that's why the unions are so insignificant in the private sector today and so prominent in municipal, state, and federal government. There's no mystery behind this. Again, the Democrats are clueless, absolutely clueless. And if you don't see this every day with what it costs you when you go to Costco, when you go to Publix, what it costs you when you go get gas, what it costs you when you go to a restaurant, if you don't see it, and then they tell you, oh, the supply chain. You know what the supply chain is? The supply chain is, again, what we've discussed. Get the money back to corporate America. Get it back. Let's artificially manipulate supply. All of a sudden, Biden comes out with a mandate and says, oh, guess what? I got a brilliant idea. We're going to open the port in Los Angeles 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. What? Why wasn't that open already? That's not anything earth-shattering. The question is why it wasn't open, not that you're opening and how great that is. No, why wasn't it open? And why does the President of the United States have to get involved in negotiations? Because that's what you can do, Biden. You can't deal with the big issues, but you're going to go to the port and say, open up. A moron could have thought of that. Anybody could have thought of that. As a matter of fact, it's inconceivable to me that it wasn't open. But what's that going to do? What are you hearing? Hey, if you want your Christmas to be good, if you want to give your kids everything that they want, you better buy it now. Better buy it when you see it. Don't negotiate, which means no sales, which means absolutely no need to hire additional workforce, because you start the season now immediately. They're telling you to go buy right now. And again, the lie of the $15, $20 minimum wage, the lie of it, there is not going to be an increase in total wages paid by corporate America, because there's going to be a lot less people working. And only the qualified people are going to get those jobs. I've had the discussion with you about the doctor, a friend of ours, or a couple of doctors actually, who said, yeah, that they're looking for people and they're willing to pay the $15 or $20 an hour, but everyone that comes in is unqualified. Many of them can't speak English here in Miami. And they're coming in and saying, oh yeah, but I won't work unless I get 17, 18 bucks an hour. Otherwise, I'll stay home. All this is a result of Biden-Harris administration. All this is a result of the left, of the woke left, and the wokeism that has overtaken this country. And all this is a concerted, undermined effort of the enemies of this country to bring this country down on its knees by lowering the standards across the board of what it takes to be a CEO, what it takes to be on the board of directors, what it takes to lead a company, what it takes to run corporations in America. All this is lowering the standards of competition so that no longer is America a country where the best and the brightest are the ones that move forward and survive and represent the country's economy, political situation. No. We've got to level the playing field to let people who are not qualified, people who do not have the experience, or people who have no business at all of owning, running, or a company or a business, we got to fund them in order to appease checklists and quotas and weaken the American infrastructure based on those criteria. Like Joe Biden, oh, I'm going to elect, my vice president nominee is going to be a woman, and then of color, he added. Right away, you're telling the world we've lowered the bar because we're not looking across the board. That doesn't mean, again, and I know a lot of people bitch about this, that doesn't mean that a woman is not the best candidate. Not at all. But by stating up front that you're going to only go with that criteria, you've automatically said that 50% of the population is not in the running for that job. And that can't happen in America. That cannot happen in America. 100% of the population. And if you believe in equality, then you can't have that mindset. It can't be black college. It can't be female this. It can't be Latino that. No, it has to be the best and most qualified American to do the job. Understand that. And quit crying and whining and bitching about inequality. There is no inequality in this country. The only inequality is between your ears. And that's been put there by the people who throw you a couple of crumbs every couple of months in order for you to vote for them and keep you exactly where you don't want to be, dependent on someone else. Pick yourself up, get in line, and do what so many immigrants have done in this country for so many years. 1960 Miami, check it out. And 2021 Miami, check it out. In 60 short years, see what the Cubans have done in this, and then see what they've done here. See what they've done to a city that at one point, the most industrialized city in Florida was Key West. See what's happened to the Miami skyline in 60 years. You need to take responsibility for where you are. And the only way we do that is competing across the board with no checklists and no limiting factors. Compete against everyone. If I want to be a basketball player, I got to compete against the best. Everyone. I can't get a break because I'm a white man. If I want to be a baseball player, I got to compete against everyone. I can't claim that there has to be a spot on a roster for a white man, or claim that there's a quota on how many Latin players there can be on a team. No. The best and the brightest and the most qualified play. The best, the brightest, and the most qualified run America. The best, the brightest, and the most qualified get the loans, get the funding, get what is needed to succeed. The best and the brightest need be the ones who represent this country politically. And until that happens, the people who are rejoicing are the Chinese, the Russians, the Middle East, all the enemies of this country who are saying, look at those fools. They've taken the bait that we've put out there 100%. And they're weakening the infrastructure of America. Now we can catch them. Now we can compete with them. Now we can pass them as the biggest economy in the world. That's what's happening. Thank you. Have a good day.